All right, peace and blessings, and welcome to another episode of the Author Spotlight here on Self-Published in 30 Days. My name is Rob YB Youngblood, President of Sales for Self-Published in 30 Days, and your host. I am excited about being here with this phenomenal author, Robert Lowery III, not to be confused with Mike Lowry.
Hey man,
that's a 90s. That's a 90s.
Every time I heard that.
Yeah, that's a 90s reference for those of you who are into movies and you watch the movie Bad Boy with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. He was imitating Mike Lowry, right? Mike Lowry.
Yes, sir.
So,
Mike Lowry.
Mike Lowry, right? So now we're here with Robert Lowery. And the best name that a man could ever have is Robert. But we talked about this one other time. While our name is very common, I prefer not to be called Robert. You like to be called Robert, but I prefer not to be called Robert.
Hey, it's funny, YB, because I kind of evolved into valuing my name, because in middle school, I tried to get people to call me by my middle name, which is LeVar. Because I thought my name didn't sound cool, you know. Yeah. Everybody had like cool sounding names like Robert. But man, over time, man, actually, as I got older and as I realized, like, okay, well, you know, the only reason I don't like my name because I'm connecting other people's perception of me to that.
Come on.
So when I made that connection, I'm like, well, listen, you know, parents called me Robert. That's who I am. So I embraced it. So I used to be called Rob, and now it's like, you know what, my name is Robert. So now it's Robert, man. So took me a while to embrace it, but I embraced it.
Yeah, I tell people, only people that can call me Robert are older folks that are like over 80 and law enforcement. So outside of that, just call me Rob, YB, or Youngblood, man. But listen, let's definitely kick off this podcast, man. So Rob or Robert is an empowerment author. He's a speaker. He's a writing coach. He's got a couple other things that he does. He's a father. He's a husband, and he's a major supporter. One of the things that I love about Robert, whenever I show up on Clubhouse, man, he's on there. He shows up to our Clubhouse rooms, and he has a lot going on, and I'm sure he'll tell you that. But Robert, tell us where you're from originally. Where's your hometown? And tell us a little bit about your background. Your backstory.
Man, well, I was born in Clearwater, Florida, raised in Largo, Florida, a little town close to Tampa, Florida. You know, raised there, man. Let's say a small town, but you know, ain't a lot of people, man. And you know, grew up. My parents, my dad owned a business called Lowery Upholstery, and my dad is a lost art, which is he upholstered furniture. So he'll take your furniture, take your chair. He'll strip it down to the wood, recover it with material that you want. He did balances. He did all that, man. And I was really a fool, because when you're around something like that and you're forced to do it, I got older. I was like, man, you know, I want to do my own thing. I wish I would have picked up that art, because as you know, furniture is so cheap now that you don't see many upholstery places. My dad, he could make furniture. He made shoe chairs. He did work. If you ever go to the Sheraton Sand Key Resort in Clearwater Beach, there's a restaurant in there. There's some long, like 15-foot benches. He did those benches for that restaurant. But yeah, man, grew up as an entrepreneur family, man. But I really didn't cling to it or try to get into entrepreneurship, primarily because my dad really wasn't making a lot of money. So I'm like, oh man, this ain't no money in this. And really, I learned later in life that it was really because of the decisions he was making, not necessarily because he was working for himself. So now I'm really able to see, man, that it's really important to have a skill and connect to be the author of your financial future. That's the best thing to do, man. So, you know, raised Largo, Florida, man. My mom, dad passed in 2018. My mom is still here. But yeah, man.
I love it, man. Yeah, I like that.
Yes,
Be the author of your financial future. I love that. I love that. So talk a little bit about your career background. I mean, obviously, you're an author, but you weren't always an author. Like, what's your career background?
Yeah, man. So what happened, man, is I turned my life over to Christ in 2008. And in 2008, man, I was used to smoke, drink, go to the club, get high, addicted to pornography. You know, God, by the grace of God, man, he turned my life around. And as God has begun to show me why I struggled with pornography, why I struggled with low self-worth, why I struggled with insecurity. And I was so inspired that I just began to write about it. And this was 2008, 2009. I still have, when I didn't know it at the time, but I began to write my first book. It's actually 23 pages. I began to write the things I was learning about myself. And I was learning about, man, I have low self. I'm addicted to pornography. I'm trying to sleep with everybody because women made me feel like I had value because I felt worthless. I didn't know I was doing that, man. I thought, hey, I'm a man. You know what I mean? Man, we sleep with whoever. That's just what we do. Right. I put it under the category of this is nature. This is human nature. Didn't realize I was doing that out of low self-worth. So I was just so inspired to write down what I was learning about myself, about God, about my surroundings, that I just began to wrote 23 pages, YB. And that was 2008, 2009. And I just stopped, just stopped. So I began to serve in a ministry. I began to read, learn more. And I noticed as I studied the Bible, I would always write down my thoughts about a scripture. And my thoughts would be 3, 4, 5, 7 pages long. So I was like, man, I need to go ahead and write a book. So in 2011, I started writing, but I was doing it very in a passive way. I was like, you know what? The book, the name of my book is called Think Up to Get Up, How to Break Free from Destructive Ways of Thinking. But the original name was Understanding Yourself. And I called it that because I was understanding myself. And I was like, well, I can preferably help other people understand themselves. But I was very passive, YB. I'd be like, you know, I'm gonna write every Tuesday. Tuesday will come, you know what? I'm busy day, I'm gonna write Thursday. Thursday will come, you know what? Because I ain't write Tuesday and Thursday, I'm gonna write for 3 hours on Saturday. YB, I procrastinate with that for about 2 to 3 years. Procrastinating, telling myself, you know what? It ain't a big deal. And then while I was struggling with that and procrastinating, I was also telling myself things like, I'm not smart enough to write a book. Nobody's gonna listen to my story. If I write a book, people gonna think I'm a know-it-all and they'll think I'm trying to be arrogant. I don't have a large following, so people not gonna listen to me. Man, I told myself everything in the book to encourage my procrastination. And YB, I wish I could remember what it was to get me to shake myself. I don't remember what happened, but I remember it was on a weekday, like a Tuesday or Wednesday. I got so pissed off with myself of procrastinating for those 2 to 3 years. I said to myself, I am gonna write every day until I finish this book, and I don't care what it takes. Right. I wish I could remember what happened, YB, because I was ticked off with myself, man. 2, 3 years procrastinating, writing, you know, a chapter or so, or not even a chapter, like a paragraph every other week for 2 and 3 years, YB. Got ticked off with myself. And I told myself, you know, I'm going to arrange my life around writing. So the strategy I had, and by the way, at this time, in 2010, I went to school to UTI, automotive school. I worked on cars. I'm a technician. I still work in the automotive industry. I went to UTI, graduated in 2010. I worked at a Ford dealership as a technician. I got most of my experience at an Infiniti dealership over in Central Florida. That's why I was there for 7 years. And that's actually where I wrote my book while I was working at this Infiniti dealership as a technician, and I became a service advisor. So my strategy was, I had to be to work at 7, and Barnes & Noble's opened at 6:30. Not Barnes & Noble's, Panera Bread. Panera Bread opened at 6:30. So it was one like 5 minutes away from my job. So I would go to Panera Bread at 6:30, right until about 6:50, and then I go to work. Right. I did that, YB, with you, about 2 to 3 years, writing every day. And something happened, YB, as I got committed to writing every day. To my amazement, writer's block disappeared. Every time I went to write, I knew either what I wanted to say or I was working on a new thought. My thoughts were getting clear. I was able to communicate my thoughts in such an effective way that writing became like, man, like it became my like therapy. So that really inspired me. And so YB, and that's even why I started helping people write the story, because I found the number one writer's block, the number one thing people get writer's block is a lack of clarity. Come on. a lack of clarity. I did not have clarity, and I didn't know I didn't have a lack of clarity. I'm just going to write. So I was just trying to write, man, and that's what honestly took me a little longer, but that was my plan, man.
Yeah, let's explore something, man, because you dropped a couple of gems, man, and I want to go back and explore it. So you talked about how you had 23 pages, 24 pages or so that you had written.
Yeah, in 2008, 2000. Yep.
Yeah, so you just left that on the shelf for a couple of years, but then you got into the automotive industry. I think that needs to be. I think that we need to pause on that, right? Because there are people that are likely in the automotive industry that just because they heard your story, they're like, you know what, I need to write a story. So that's something that we want to convey to those who are, whether they're in automotive or they're a electrician, they do stuff with their hands, blue collar, whatever it might be, that you're worthy of writing a book. Right,
yes,
because
sir.
you even said it. One of the lies that you share with yourself is, oh, people are gonna think I'm a know-it-all, or are they gonna wanna hear my story? And the answer is yes. So tell us again. Give us the title of your book, and then tell us what is your book about.
Yes, sir. So the name of my book is "Think Up to Get Up: How to Break Free from Destructive Ways of Thinking."
Come on.
And this book is actually principles that I needed to overcome my low self-worth, my insecurity. The thesis of the book is you can overcome any circumstance as long as your thinking is above the circumstance.
Ooh.
What I learned.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No, you're not gonna breeze past that right now, man.
Yes,
you coming strong. You're coming strong today, right? Give me that one more time.
Yeah. The thesis is you can overcome any circumstance as long as your thinking is above that circumstance.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and what that means to me is I really there's a quote, I forgot who quoted it, but they said you can't solve a problem on the same level of thinking the problem was created on. I think it was Einstein.
Yeah, Albert Einstein. That's one of my wife's. That's one of my wife's favorite quotes.
So what I learned is I was to overcome low self-worth. I was trying to overcome the victim mentality, but I was using the same thinking that I created the problem on. So what that means is whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, that you have to grow, you have to learn, you have to put yourself in an environment to where you're uncomfortable, learn new principles, and do all you can to apply them to your life. One of the principles that I learned, one of the quotes that I have in the book that I really love is, accepting your circumstances guarantees that tomorrow will not get better.
Ooh.
Accepting your circumstances guarantees that tomorrow will not get better. And YB, I was accepting my circumstances. I was saying, well, look where I'm from. I ain't have a lot. And then when you mix low self-worth connected to people who prefer you to think low of yourself, that's a toxic mix.
Yes.
People are going to tell you that, you're not smart enough to write a book. And I know you know this, YB. People will project their fears and insecurities on your purpose.
Right.
You have a big vision for yourself, but because the person that you may be working with or connected to, they got a small vision of themselves, and they tell you that you can't do it, not because they don't believe in you, because they think low of themselves.
Yeah.
And they want you to be in agreement. Honestly, I think that's the main reason why so many people are scared to write their story.
Yes.
They writing for affirmation. You want people to like your book or tell you it's a good book before you put it out there or go hard with it, because you're writing for affirmation. You have to know that your story can empower people, and you got to be the first client. And this is what I mean. Don't write to help other people. Help yourself. Out of the fruit of that, other people. It sounds very noble to say, I want to help people, because, help people by helping yourself.
I love it. No, I love.
That's how you avoid bump burnout. Go ahead, brother.
I love that. I love that because it definitely requires a shift in mentality, right? Because there are a group of people. I was one of them. You know, former people pleasers who their focus is on helping everybody. But when you turn around, then those same people that you help are not there to help you, right? But a wise man once told me that if you're in an airplane and the airplane's going down, the air oxygen masks are going to come from the top, and you're encouraged to put the mask on yourself first before you share with anyone else, and a lot of that has to do with self-preservation, not in terms of being selfish, but like if you don't take care of yourself, you don't have enough to be able to help anybody else. You know what I mean? And so I think what you're sharing is so powerful, Rob. Talk a little bit about you shared a lot about the challenges. So we're not going to touch on that because you shared about the challenges, the thought process. Talk about how now that the book is done, what kind of impact is your book having now? Obviously it took you a while to get it done. Now that it's done, what kind of impact are you seeing that it's having on your readers, on the people that are getting their hands on the book?
Man, it's funny you say that because one of the mistakes that I made, and I really realized it as I got on Clubhouse, listening to people like you, like other people in the self-published for 30 days. Because when I first got on, I ran, I think, to you and a lot of great authors and marketers on Clubhouse. And I learned that I really did my marketing all wrong. And my marketing was, my publisher is going to promote my book. I think the title is good. The subtitle is good. So my book is going to sell. Please, y'all don't make that mistake. You got to promote your book. So I did absolutely zero marketing. I did absolutely zero. All I did was I created a YouTube channel. I did, you can go to my YouTube channel, Robert Lowery. I did about 30 different talks on the principles, and that's it. Posted it to IG and YouTube, and that was it. And that was about 2 months before the book launch, and that was it. So my book definitely with the proper launch would have had a greater impact. But the people who read it, it's really a blessing because the book is designed to help you examine yourself. Okay. So I called it how to break free from destructive ways of thinking, but I don't necessarily give you principles of how to break the limited beliefs or destructive ways of thinking. I just share with you principles that force you to level up in your thinking. I'll give you another one, principle number 12. And by the way, in the back of the book, I have 50 principles that would inspire you to think up. So there are 50 principles that I learned that if you apply them to your life diligently, they will force you to come out of any circumstance. Yeah. This is one of the principles. The principle number 12, there is no fear, no bondage, and no insecurity that produces its power to suppress without your help. What that means is every form of limitation need you to agree that you can be limited. Yeah. No limitation works if you just disagree with it. Yeah. You're gonna bump heads with it, but as you grow, as you rise, as you reject, like, no, I'm not going to be limited. I'm not going to be marginalized. And you find a different way, you're going to come out of your limited thinking. But what most of us do, and what I did, is when the fear came, the insecurity came, I told myself, you know what? Yeah, this happened to me. So yeah, it's okay to be fearful. It's okay to limit myself. I agreed with the limitation. So that principle just help people to see that if you agree with the limitation, every form of bondage is going to attach itself to your life, whether you like it or not, whether you Christian or not. It's a principle. It's a law that whether you agree with it or not, it's going to be realized in your life.
Yeah, I love that, man. Listen, as we begin to land the plane, Robert, talk a little bit about because you mentioned that this whole idea, so we're in the self-published industry. We, as a publisher, we support our authors. We help them get the book developed. and publish, but then it's up to the author to market the book. Tell us, how can people get their hands on your book, Rob? So say, for example, they're listening to these words, they're empowered by the principles that you share. What's the best way for folks to get their hands on your book?
Yes, sir. Well, you can go to Amazon. It's on Amazon. Just think up to get up. It's also on barnesandnobles.com. You can go there, and on my website, roblowry3.com. So it's a R-O-B, I'm sorry. Hold on, can you miss it there? Yeah, roblowry3.com. You can also get it there. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys' support, but I pray that the principles in the book really help you to break, man, the limiting thoughts. Because, man, YB, what we don't realize, man, in 2022, it's the most number of deaths of overdoses, the highest number of depression, suicide.
Yeah.
We're living in the greatest time of our lives, and yet more people are depressed. More people are not living their best life, even whatever that means to you. It don't have to be your best life according to me or anybody else.
Yeah.
But so many people are insecure. So I pray that the content really, really blesses you.
Yeah, I love it, Rob. And listen, thank you so much for investing your most valuable asset with us. I do have one curveball that I want to throw at you. Say, for example, you get ready for your next book. Let's say you're about to put your next book out there, and you can go anywhere in the world to write this book, anywhere. And we are paying for it. Self-publishing 30 days, we're paying for it. Where would you travel to write your next book if you can go anywhere in the world?
That's a good question, man. Honestly, I don't know what it is about a Panera Bread, but it's just in a restaurant. But I would say Miami, and forgive me because it's like I loved Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, man. I was able to write over there. But yeah, man, it's just, you get me in the restaurant because I like a little noise, a little distraction. I don't like to be totally to myself.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I really believe I like writing at Panera Bread so much because I force myself to be productive at that Panera Bread by my job because that was my only choice.
Right.
So as I did that for years, it's like, man, you put me in a Panera Bread, I don't care where it's at. I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna get it done.
I love it. I love it. You know, what's amazing. Most people shared destinations. They shared Italy, France. Some people said, just drop me off in Africa. You're the very first person that said, hey, just drop me off in a Panera Bread. I love that, man. And
yeah,
I appreciate
but you want to know why I say that? Because to me, no matter where I go, I have to be focused in on my thoughts and my surroundings.
Yes.
So even if I'm in a beautiful place like Italy or Africa, I ain't outside.
Right.
And I'm not, like, my creativity doesn't come from that. It could, you know, and I can definitely explore that. But I learned, YB, and this is another principle that I think people really need to take, is you got to learn how to put a demand on your creativity. Some people put a demand on their creativity by doing what other people do because it looks beautiful. But for me, I found out that, man, I can push out 2,000 words in about 35 minutes sitting out of that Panera Bread. Yeah. So until I find something that I can beat that, man, I'm going to that Panera Bread. So I believe that may help. But, man, I want to be effective, YB.
Yeah.
Like, it's beautiful. I love to go to Africa and Italy. I ain't gonna lie to you. That sounds nice, but I know when I sit down to write, I learn to take it serious. Yeah. And I can't take it serious on vacation.
Well, listen, that's called HCA. You know what HCA is? HCA is home court advantage. You know what I'm saying? You got home court advantage, man. So Robert,
yes, sir.
I value you. I appreciate you. And listen, we wish you all of the best. And for those of you who are listening and you're watching this, maybe this is your first time, make sure you follow the Self-Publishing 30 Days on all social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and check out our website, www.selfpublish30days.com, where you can learn more about how we can assist you in getting your book done. Robert is a phenomenal individual. You can catch him on Clubhouse. You can also catch us on Clubhouse in the Authors Club every Thursday and Friday. Thursday you can catch the LinkedIn for Authors Room. at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can catch the Authors Roundtable at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am your host, Rob YB Youngblood, and I'm so excited about this opportunity that we've had with you. If you like the content, make sure you hit the like button, drop your comments, and make sure you give us a follow. And with that being stated, be encouraged, be blessed, but most of all, be faithful over the gift that you've been given, because your gifts will make room for you. This is the year for your new book. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.